Well, I know I'm a little bit late getting to this. It is the midweek, but I'm getting to it nonetheless. My take on the third week of action in the English Premier League, starting off with the first game of action taking place at White Hart Lane between Tottenham Hotspurs and Liverpool Football Club. The Reds traveled on the road in their third match of the season, taking on Tottenham, where the two teams scrapped and battled and pressed their way to a one-all draw. James Milner opened the scoring with a well placed penalty kick into the lower left corner after Roberto Firmino was taken down in the box. Perhaps the contact began outside the box, but nevertheless, Eric Lamela committed the foul. And like I said, Milner made no mistakes. That was nice to see. And the equalizer came from Danny Rose, who just thundered, just smashed home volley past the practically helpless Simon Mignolet. So, two teams that have been underperforming a little bit so far early in this Premier League season, but still, I'd say two teams that'll be right there in the thick of it for those top four spots in the Champions League. Now, another team that is looking stronger, or certainly top four contender, is Arsenal. They went on the road to Watford and came out on top with a 3-1 win. So it would be very easy to take the piss out of Watford for allowing Mesut Ozil to just way too easily score a headed goal. You don't want to let a little guy like Ozil, embarrass your defense like that. But that's what Watford did. Although that is a team I do have respect for. I do believe Watford will stay up this season. But Ozil got his header. Alexis Sanchez scored, as did Santi Cazorla. So some of Arsenal's big name signings delivered the goods, while Roberto Pereira scored the consolation goal for Watford in the 57th minute. Also taking place that day, another 1-1 draw between Crystal Palace and Bournemouth. Christian Benteke was signed by Crystal Palace to sign goals. Unfortunately, he was largely responsible for just casual clearance that led to Bournemouth's opening goal, scored by Joshua King. Meanwhile, Crystal Palace was able to rescue a point after Scott Dan headed home the equalizer off of a great cross. This is probably a match that you would see on paper. Most likely, Palace should have won, considering they had 24 shots, 5 of which were on goal. But, that's football. Sometimes you just shoot the ball a ton and don't really see the ball going to the back of the net much. So, Chelsea, meanwhile, had one of the more dominating performances on the weekend. They just steered right past Burnley, 3-0 win, not much trouble for them. Eden Hazard had a scathing, just phenomenal, really, run down the pitch, setting up his own goal. Just a really beautiful low drive in the 9th minute. Meanwhile, Willian scored, and believe it or not, Victor Moses is still a Chelsea player. It's hard to believe Victor Moses is still in the Premier League, but he scored a tight angle goal in the 89th minute to put the cherry on top of the victory. So good for Victor Moses, the former Liverpool loanee, who probably enjoyed the best days of his career back when Wigan were in the top flight. So another team that picked up 3 points in the weekend, Everton, the Toffees, were kind of lucky, if you will, to get 3 points at home at Goodison Park, considering that their goal was scored in lucky circumstances for the home team and unfortunate circumstances for Shay Given. Made a nice penalty save that bounced off the post, back off his head, and into the goal. So technically that counted as an own goal. That was the only goal of the match, so Everton came away with the 3 points. Meanwhile, Southampton at St. Mary's Stadium hosted Sunderland, and the two teams played to a 1-1 draw. The ageless wonder that is Jermaine Defoe just keeps on scoring those goals. He scored in the 80th minute, while I was really happy to see a nice tough finish from Jay Rodriguez in the 85th minute to rescue a point. Rodriguez has been through so many challenges in his career with injuries, so to see him get on the score sheet for the Saints is very refreshing to see. Meanwhile, Leicester City got a much needed win. They really needed to pick up 3 points early in the season, coming out with a 2-1 win over Swansea City, and just an incredible ball was played just past the Swansea City defense to set up Jamie Vardy's goal. The first goal of the match, which was scored in the 32nd minute. Meanwhile, Wes Morgan gave a little bit more breathing room for the host of the King Power Stadium, to take the 2-0 lead. Meanwhile, Leroy Fair of Swansea City scored in the 80th minute, and that was an important goal because it kept them in the thick of things, but ultimately it was not enough. So Leicester, the reigning Premier League champions, pick up a crucial 3 points. And, interesting to note that Riyad Mahrez had a penalty saved by was it Lucas Fabianski. I'm trying to look here. Yes, okay. The ball that was played to Jamie Vardy was played on by trying to see, because I don't know who it was off the top of my head, but I do know that it was an incredible ball, and he merits really being recognized for just an unbelievable pass down the field. It was perfectly weighed. I mean, it was just fan-freaking-tastic. But unfortunately, the match report that I'm reading right here is not giving the assist credit here, so I'm going to move on and not get too hung up about it. But if you get the chance, make sure you watch that goal. Now, Hull City, they hosted Manchester United. The Tigers got off to a super hot start with 2 wins in their opening 2 fixtures. However, they have come crashing down back to earth as Marcus Rashford. They say Fergie time is back, and if it is, it's largely because of Marcus Rashford, because he scored the game-winning goal in stoppage time in the pouring rain. Type of goal that will just only further endear him to the Manchester United fans. And of course, the delighted Zlatan Ibrahimovic was there to embrace him almost immediately afterwards. And on Sunday, West Bromwich Albion took on Middlesbrough, and they played at the Hawthorns, 2 sides battling to a 0-0 draw. From what I heard, wasn't the most fun game to watch, but then again, what 0-0 draw ever is when it's goalless. And for the last match of the weekend, Manchester City just controlled the match pretty much from start to finish against West Ham. Raheem Sterling, as much as it pains me to say, is off to a fantastic start this season. He scored two goals, including a really tight-angled finish in stoppage time to really just cap off the win. He also scored in the 7th minute. Meanwhile, Fernandinho gave the hosts the lead at the Etihad Stadium with a nice header. Meanwhile, Michail Antonio is continuing his strong start to the season for the Hammers. He scored in the 58th minute. So now, taking a look at the table, there are 3 teams that have come away with 9 points in 3 games. Those 3 are, not too surprisingly, Manchester City on top of the table on goal differential, Chelsea, and Manchester United. Going a little bit further down, Everton has 6 points. Everton has 7 points, correction. Hull City is this team with 6 points. And right behind them are Middlesbrough and Tottenham with 5 each. And a bunch of teams currently sitting at 4, including Arsenal, Leicester City, West Brom, and Liverpool. Meanwhile, West Ham, Burnley, and Swansea currently stand at 3. Southampton are now at 2, not the start that they were hoping for under new leadership. Meanwhile, all the teams that are currently standing with just a point are Sunderland, Crystal Palace, Watford, Bournemouth, and Stoke. So no teams are off to a horrendous start so far. No one has gone with 3 straight losses to start the season. So, parity as usual in the Premier League, and it should be very interesting to see how things play out following the international break this weekend. So as always, thank you so much for tuning in, and take care.